Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division in the Festive Cup tournament. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, so let's go. First, I want to be very clear that you cannot practice any of these holes in the regular tour play. And therefore, I've been using like my own recordings that I've had since before when I'm playing these holes to provide this playthrough and guide for you. If you do want to get the text guides, you can check out patreon.com/golfclashtommy. Then you can sign up and get the text guide before everyone else. So, hole number one, we're going to start by saying that we're going to play this one slightly downhill. And playing this one slightly downhill means that we're going to add 10% to our adjustment. The thing that we do want to do here is that if we're going to miss this hole, then we're going to miss it kind of a lot on the right side. The reason we want to do that is because we do have the hill on the right side that can get the ball to slope down towards the pin. I'm using in this area with this type of wind, I'm having slight tailwind combined with crosswind. I'm using 3.5 bar of backspin. If I would be having straight tailwind, I'm using 4 bars of backspin. If I'm playing like straight crosswind, playing with 3 bars of backspin. And if I'm having headwind, I'm playing with 2 bars of backspin there, just to compensate for what really happened with the extended ball galley or the compressed ball galley, depending on the angle of the wind here. But you can see here with this little piece of curl, I'm putting myself a little bit too much to the left there on the fairway, bounce up to the right and fall back down, and that's something that we need to prevent. But also you can see there that the ball did fall down to the pin, so it's better to miss right than miss left. Definitely a possible hole-in-one hole in my opinion. Hole number 2, and this is going to be one of the tougher one. I hope that we're not getting tailwind on this one, because if we do get tailwind, then we're going to dial in the hook shot with whatever driver we are going to use. So I hope we're going to get like crosswind, or we're going to get some headwind here, because then we really need to work for it. We do need, if we do have crosswind, we do need to reach at least pocket 2, like the second pocket on the fairway. And I call it pockets because it's easier for me with my Swinglish. But you can see those like in between those 2 bunkers, that little pocket that inside the rough there. And we have like 3 parts of those on, you can see on the right side. And our opponent is in pocket number 2. I'm going to go for pocket number 3 here. So I'm going to go with max side spin. I'm going to go with 2.5 to 3 bars of top spin with this type of wind. The important here, the thing that I do forget here, is that I'm going with too much curl here, because we do already have the wind here to push us into the left. Because the fairway is sloping left to right, and it's very important that we do compensate for that. So in this particular way, I shouldn't be going with this much curl. I should be taking the ball just inside the rings instead of going with just a baby curl here. Because you can see how lucky I am to roll through the rough twice and going into the center of the fairway to like the distance of where the 3rd pocket are. And you can see here now with headwind for the second shot, with a sniper, even with a cataclysm or the big dog, it would be very tough for our opponent to reach for the green in 2 with this amount of headwind. So that's what I was saying before. Crosswind, we can get an aim for the pocket that our opponent is in, but if we would be having headwind, then we need to push it big time with our drive. The drive needs to add 10% as we're playing it slightly downhill as well. That's the final piece I will have to say about the drive. Second shot now then, what can you do in this situation? You can either go full blast overpower, or you can in this case lay up. I would be laying up, because with this type of headwind we know that even if absolute spot on drive, we will not be able to reach for the green in 2. And I'd rather take a wedge from the fairway than going up here and fall down into the rough or into the sand. Because you can see how much uphill this one is, so it's not that you're going to get any help to gain more speed when you're going up to that fairway there. I'm having this sniper as well. With headwind, I'm playing with 2 bars of top spin. Crosswind, I'm going with 1 bar of top spin. If I'm having tailwind, I'm going with no bars of top spin. Maybe 1 bar of backspin even in tailwind. I normally use max side spin to the left, so I can put myself and my aiming position, or like aka landing position, more to the right. So I'm not going to have to aim as close to the rough and the sand with the ball guideline. We're not going to add anything for this adjustment. We're not playing down, we're not playing uphill or anything, so we're just going to play it as it is. And now we're going to bounce, and then we roll on the green. Very tough hole, and if we do get a bird in this hole, we should be okay with that, because there will be so many players that are going to make a par on this one, unfortunately. Now I'm going to play with a berserker ball, take away the level that I have on my club, and focus on instead that you do need to have a Thor Saddle level 5 plus, an XY level 8, or an Apocalypse level 4 plus to be able with this type of wind to clear the rough. We still need to have a little bit of luck, and I'm using maxed overpower here with 12.4 slight crosswind, but also more tailwind. If I would be having straight tailwind, I wouldn't be going max overpower if I would be having wind over 10. Then I would be going slight below max overpower. And if I would be having like 12 in wind with a berserker ball, then I would go in like 75% overpower with straight tailwind. The important part there is that we actually hit the fairway. If we make a drive that will make it great, massively right or left, then we're going to possibly cut the rough, and then we're going to roll out and have a big problem. The reason I'm showing you this way and this particular guide for this hole is that with headwind and crosswind, we should only lay up with a drive, and then we're going to have the second shot up to the next fairway, the third shot up to the green. And sure, that third shot with a long iron or short iron should be a possible eagle opportunity, but in the end, this is par 5, and this is the only way we will be able to reach for the green in 2. So I really hope that the Game Makers is going to provide us with some type of tailwind, so we actually have the chance to get over. And then we need to use a power 5 ball. That's something that we do need to do. The drive needs to be added 10% as we're playing that one downhill. And now the different thing that happens here is that for the second shot, when approaching the green like this, we're going to subtract 10% as we're playing this one downhill. Uphill. So then we're going to subtract. So I'm going to aim for the green. Having 16.7 in wind, the straight tailwind, that's going to be tough, but we're going to adjust this one for being around 14.8, 14.7 in wind, and that is definitely going to help us big time. The thing that I also want to focus on here is to just get it on green. I'm not looking at the albatross, because in the end, if we gain an eagle on this one, tailwind or not tailwind, that's going to be a huge advantage for us. In terms of our opponents that are going to play this hole. Now this shot become very good, and I'm very happy with that shot, and it's going to be a tap-in eagle. But again, be happy if you do gain a birdie here. The majority of the player base will gain a birdie. But if we do have tailwind and you do have the club for it, we can definitely go for the eagle, and that's going to put you amongst those just a couple of percentage that going to gain an eagle on hole number 3. So now it's time to go and focus on hole number 4. And hole number 4 here is going to give ourselves 2 versions. I'm going to show 2 versions. One when I'm aiming a little bit further ahead on the fairway there on the first piece. Then the other one I'm going to aim on just on the start of the fairway, to show you how the ball is going to react, and also going to explain what my thoughts are, what I really are going to do here. First, we can say here, if we play with the Goliath, which I'm going to do, then you're going to play with a long iron in basically any type of wind. The only difference could be if we would be having a massive headwind, then we will in some cases have to play with a sniper or with the Guardian there. So you can see here I'm aiming for that part of fairway that is going to that part of the fairway that is going to be up there in this like a little what is it called? I don't know what it's called in English, but you can see here on the screen at least. And that is going to be hard for us, as for the ball is going to take a different bounce than we are adjusting for. As if we're just coming in slightly too much to the right, the ball is going to be pushed more to the left, as we are going to be pointed a little bit to the left as for the slope on that piece of fairway. So the thing is that I would like to play as we would be doing here in the second opportunity, second way to play this hole. I would like to do. So we're going now to the second example, and now I'm going to play further back down. And again, the reason I'm playing there is that I feel that's a more consistent way to play. I understand that there will be players as well that are going to play directly on green with a guardian, trying to get to the top and use the backspin. But that shot depends so much in what type of wind we're going to have. Because the struggle with that type of approach is that we're going to have a different spin setup a way different spin setup in headwind, a way different spin setup in crosswind, and a way different spin setup in tailwind. From this position we're going to play, the spin setup is going to be very close, no matter what type of angle we're going to have for the wind. So, and our opponent's going to play that way as well. I'm going to try to get it up here. You're going to use the right side of the green to make the ball fall in here very nicely towards the pin. And this is a good shot to bring with you in the regular tour play as well, that this shootout will cause trouble for many of your opponents when you're going to play. So our turn, and I'm going to play Goliath, and I'm going to play it in medium distance of my club. I'm going to play 1.5 bar of topspin with 1 bar side spin to the right, and 1 bar side spin to the right to compensate for the angle that we do have on the wind, because we're going to get a push from the bounce that's going to be slightly towards the left here. So going to use the right side of the green as the green slopes into the left. We can of course play it more straight towards the pin, and that's of course the ultimate goal in this one, to get it as straight to the pin as possible to try to get that hole in one. This curl that we're getting, we could stay away from it when you see the result, but look at this one, it falls in from the right, coming in very nicely, and we're putting ourselves up for a possible hole in one, and in the end at least a safe birdie. So hole number 5 now I'm going to play with max side spin to the right, and I'm going to play this one with 2.5 bar of topspin. If I'm having tailwind or crosswind, I'm going to play over the bunker and the rough. And that is because then we're taking away a big piece of obstacle that we're going to have otherwise with our drive. And now we're going to add 10% extra to our adjustment. So we're going to play the driver max distance with 10% extra. And you don't have to have the Apocalypse level 7, you can play with Extra Mile, Thor's Hammer, and Apocalypse of course as well. Slight amount of curl to the right to just come in more to the right, and you can see here in terms of the distance I'm not going short, I'm not going long, this is an absolute perfect distance that we do have with our drive, and this is going to help us big time to get that eagle that I do believe, depending on the wind that we're going to have, that it's almost going to be a must eagle on this one, especially if we're going to have the wind that I'm going to have for the second shot, like headwind or like tailwind, straight tailwind. Crosswind is going to be a little bit trickier, but with some straight type of wind, it's definitely going to be a huge opportunity for us to make this eagle from distance. And when we do have a tournament in general that doesn't give us that many opportunities, then we need to take those opportunities that is provided to us by good play, or just maybe the hole is a little bit easier. Our opponent here is getting a pretty weird bounce, and he's going with too much of curl, and that's the problem that makes this ball go into the rough instead. Look at this wind, everyone, like absolutely spot on wind. The only boring part here is that I'm actually over adjusting this shot, but the spin setup I like. 2 bars of backspin, and I'm going with slightly more than 1 bar of side spin to the right, so I can aim on the green, just on the green, and then aim to the right side of the pin. If I would be if I would be playing this shot again, I wouldn't be over adjusting it so much, and I would almost be wanting to play on the fairway just off the rough. But that's up to you, what you feel comfortable with when approaching this pin. So this is way over adjusted and also integrate to the right, and then we don't sink any shots. So this was hole number 5 in the Festive Cup, and then we're going to go to hole number 6. Hole number 6, par 5, and also a very tough par 5, and to make an eagle on. So we need to be spot on with a drive. So as for hole 3, but that also for hole 6, but also for hole 9, if we get into the rough with a drive, we're going to have a very tough time to reach for the green in 2. If not being impossible, like for say for hole 3 and hole 9. But on this one, it is possible to reach for the green in 2 if we do have tailwind for our shot. If we do have tailwind, we're going to see many players going with a berserker, going with a snow globe ball, which gives us like wind resistance 1 or even 0, and then power 5, and gain as much distance as possible on the drive to put them up for a short iron or a long iron. It's a very tough drive to do so, as we have a lot of rough to take into account. And now our opponent did bounce directly on the fairway, and that is for sure the thing that you need to do if you're going to go for it like he was doing. And now into the rough for the second shot shouldn't be a problem. Me myself are playing left. I'm playing more conservative because I know if I make this drive right, then I don't have to first and foremost overpower my drive, then I don't have to overpower the second shot as well. 20% extra due to this massive downhill approach, and I'm going to play with 6 bars of topspin. And if you do not have 6 bars of topspin, you're going to use the most that you do have on your drive. 3 bars of side spin to the right as well, to just get myself as close to the right as possible. Because the closer we are to the right, the less yards we're going to have towards the pin. For the second shot, our opponent here is just going to lay up, and now you can see with this type of headwind, it's going to be very tough to do something special here, and the only thing that you can do is to try to get as close to the green as possible. For me myself, I'm going to play with a sniper, but if I could now afterwards change my club, I would definitely go with a cataclysm or a big dog. So I give myself the yards that is the most for a wood club. Having a 172 yards on a sniper compared to a cataclysm level 2, level 3, or a big dog level 5, level 6, level 7 that do have 180 yards, then that's a big difference with those 8 yards, at least on this hole, in terms of like if we're going to have like a short drive that we can still reach for the green in 2. So if we wouldn't be able to have the distance on our drive and we don't have a club for it, then we need to lay up as our opponent is doing there on the right, to go and try to approach the pin with a short wedge instead. Also, when it comes to the second shot here, we are going to try to bounce over the sand. Have in mind that the fairway is very inconsistent, that you're sometimes going to get a very high bounce, sometimes you're going to get a very low bounce, and so really compensate for the wind that you're going to have, that if you do have headwind, the ball is going to sometimes just basically stop. So you're not trying to approach with a very tough shot towards the pin and then accidentally put yourself in the bunker instead. So let's go to hole number 7 here. We have 3 more holes to go, and hole number 7 is a par 4, the last par 4 that we do have in the tournament. And this again is going to be a tough par 4, which is going to require a good drive if we're going to have an opportunity to have a good opportunity for the eagle. Our opponent's using too much topspin here, and I would like to go with only like 4 bars of topspin. I think that is going to be like the normal way to play. Headwind, sure, then we need to go with more topspin if we're going to play on the left side. In tailwind, I can almost go with like 2.5, 3 bars instead of going with the 4 that I'm going to do. But you can see the result here with the amount of curl combined with the topspin. Our opponent's going to get a very big extra push, and this is something that is very common for this hole, that you're going to get that little glitchy roll down on the fairway there and get into the rough. But from that position, it's not going to be a problem to reach for the green in 2, but in the end it takes away the opportunity for the eagle on this one. So I'm going to go 4 bars of side spin, like 3.5, 4 bars, and I'm going to play this one. As for the wind, it's showing me, look in the middle here where I'm just mixturing a little bit. I'm actually using just 2 bars of topspin here for this approach and 4 bars of side spin. I would go with 4 bars of topspin here as well to just gain a little bit more distance and just make sure that if I do hit a bad drive or adjusting it not properly, that at least getting the distance, so I'm not cutting the rough just after there. Now I'm getting a little bit too close for my taste, and we have a lot more fairway to work with here. But you can see there, I didn't overdo with this one. I did go with slight amount of curl. I did go with 4 bars of side spin, and compare that to our opponent that went with max side spin combined with max top spin. We definitely gave ourselves more control with the drive and going to have no problem to approach the pin now for an eagle attempt. The drive as well, before we go over to the second shot, is going to be played 10% extra. That's because we're playing it downhill, and that is very important in terms of getting your rings right and also getting the ball to bounce where you want to. So our opponent gets into the rough, no problem whatsoever with tailwind to approach the green directly. If having headwind even from the rough, you need to bounce just over the bunker, and shouldn't be a problem to get it into that area. In this case as well, if you find yourself in a position where you have a wind, where you maybe have a very strong tailwind, you maybe took out the berserker ball as we did have tailwind, and you have like a 14-15 miles per hour tailwind, then you can approach the green directly with max backspin on either the sniper or the guardian, depending on the club that you're going to use. Use the back of the green. As you can see, it's kind of the uphill there, and then that ball is going to fall down towards the pin, and sometimes you're going to be lucky to get that ball in the hole. But with this type of wind, we're going to take the sniper, approach the pin, getting it like, not that close, but at least you see the point with it, to approach the pin in that way, to try to get that eagle on hole number 7, which is going to be tough, but it's going to absolutely be possible. Hole number 8. Start off by adding 10% to our adjustment. We're playing downhill, and we're going to play directly on the green. This is a guardian hole. So if you have the guardian, if so in just level 2, level 3, choose the guardian over whatever level you have your sniper in. The reason for that is the enormous backspin the guardian has, and we do want to use the backspin to get it to bounce just there after the fringe, and then we need to get it to use the right side of the green to let the ball fall back down. You can see here now I'm just hitting just by the fringe here and getting the ball to stop, but I'm still coming in a little bit too high. So the sniper is going to work if we do have some headwind, but if we do have crosswind or tailwind in some form, the guardian is going to be the play. So choose the guardian to make sure that whatever type of wind we're going to have, then we're going to play in this way. Our opponent's going to play the same type of way, and it's going to be the same type of result. We're going to gain a lot of speed from the right side of the hill. And now our opponent's using a little bit more side spin to the right than I was doing. But this is the way to play this hole. And the problem you will get, or like the risk that you do take if you're going to continue to play with the sniper because you love the sniper and maybe not familiar with the guardian, you might going to lose a stroke on hole number 8 because you're choosing the wrong club. I can't stress enough how important it is to play with a wood club that gives you a lot of backspin, like the guardian here, so you can get the ball to stop on the on the green here, to fall down towards the pin and give you a chance for a pretty easy hole-in-one if you find the right slope. Hole number 9 here, last hole of the tournament, par 5. Again, it's going to be a par 5 where if you go into the rough here with your drive, then it's bye-bye reaching for the green in 2. So the thing that we're going to do is that we're going to be very, very cautious with our drive. And you might wonder, why don't we play left side when it's more open, and then we play right side instead? The reason we're doing so is because the right side is going to give us enough distance to reach for the fairway pad and bounce towards the green. If we're playing left side, that could potentially put ourselves in a position where we cannot reach to bouncing on that fairway pad that we want to for our second shot, and then we're going to have a big problem, as there isn't that many other ways to consistently go for the green if we cannot reach that fairway pad. So I'm going to play with an Apocalypse level 7, and again, you can play this shot and should be playing with this shot with whatever drive you have in terms of extra mile, Thor, Sam, or the Apocalypse. Doesn't matter what level you play with. 2.5 bar topspin, max side spin to the right. I would say remove a little bit distance from max position there, especially in crosswind. Go with 3 bars of topspin instead. So especially now when we're having some slight headwind with our approach, that we're not going to find ourselves being in between clubs and have to go with an unnecessary amount of overpower here. You can see here I'm still going with that little piece of curl. I'm going with the ball kind of like 80% outside the ring to the right, and with a new type of curl that we're going to have, I would suggest that we try to use as low amount of curl as possible, because it's very hard to estimate now with a new type of curl we're going to have. Even though I'm going to have a playthrough out for all the holes as well, and of course if we do use more curl I'm going to describe, so you do get yourself a reference. Last for the drive there is that we're going to add 5% to our adjustment, and those 5% means that we're going to play that shot in slight downhill, and that's very important, because with strong crosswind, strong tailwind, strong wind overall, that could make it or break it if you're going to be in the rough or not. Second shot here, now we're actually playing uphill, so now we need to take away 10%, and that's something that you will see me with my shot having a very hard time to do. Not hard time, but I do forget or just not paying attention to it, because I'm going to miss my shot way to the right. And like I actually remember when playing this hole that I couldn't figure out why, because it was so long time ago. But then in the end, this hole is uphill, so the ball is going to be affected less by the wind than normal. We aim up, and we aim up straight towards the pin. We can, with this type of wind, when we're having some type of crosswind, aim slightly to the right of the pin to just compensate for the push that we're going to get from the bounce, like we're doing now. But with this type of wind, and we're taking away 10%, we should be adjusting for 9 miles per hour instead of using those 10.3. But also dropping down into the sand makes us lose a little bit of distance and have because it gives us a lower trajectory with our aiming point. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the playthrough for Pro and Expert Division. You cannot practice any of these holes in the regular tour play, so study it so you do get some information for when the tournament starts. I will be there with a playthrough with the correct tournament wind when the tournament is up and running, of course. If you do want to get the text guys before everyone else, check out patreon.com/golfclashtommy. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, so good luck in the Festive Cup tournament.